Well, no.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Stewart. It's my privilege to welcome you to the University of Alabama for what is such a special day in the life of our athletic department and in our university. The press, I believe, have already been given notice about our format for today, so we'll go ahead and get our program underway. It's my honor to welcome the President of the University of Alabama, Dr. Stuart Bell.
Thank you, Chris, and good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. Also, I want to welcome our trustees and our trustee emeriti. Thank you all for coming out today, and also Chancellor Hayes, right here. Thank you, Ray, for being here. Well, when Bill Battle told me that he would be retiring as athletic director, we knew that we would have an arduous task that's before us, and as many recent reports have captured, Bill established a high bar of expectation in all that he's done. And we knew that we had some very large shoes to fill here at the University of Alabama. Bill has done a tremendous job as our athletic director. His solid character, his strong work ethic, his deep passion for his university have all had a significant impact on the University of Alabama. And I know I don't have to tell anyone that he's a gentleman in every sense of the word. I think if you couple those things with his commitment to excellence, that's what has allowed our student athletes to continue to be successful on the playing fields, on the courts, on the classrooms for every year that he's been here at the University of Alabama. We have truly been blessed to have him in this role. I'm particularly pleased that Bill has agreed to continue to work with me as a special advisor. His counsel will be vital as we move through this transition period, but also beyond that. So I want to thank Bill. I want to thank his wife Mary, who is with us today. They are wonderful ambassadors for the University of Alabama, and they will continue to be our ambassadors. We know that Bill and Mary will continue to stay involved because they are great fans, but also because they're just great supporters of this university in so many ways. So Bill, Mary, thank you all for what you have done for the University of Alabama. As we looked to fill this impending position of athletic director, our attention turned to one particular person, and that is Greg Byrne. Greg has served as Vice President of Athletics at the University of Arizona for almost 7 years, and he is considered by many to simply be one of the best in this profession. The more people that we talked to, and the more that we talked to Greg Byrne, we knew that he had clear vision for the university. He had exceptional integrity, and he had experience that we were looking for here at the University of Alabama. Throughout his career, Greg has established himself as a man of great integrity and excels in all the areas that we believe are important to the University of Alabama. And that is graduating student athletes, is practicing sound fiscal management, providing a first-class experience for our students, for our coaches, for our fans, and of course competing at the highest level for national championships. While at Arizona, he's seen the construction completion of a $72 million Lowell Stevens football facility and the completion of phase 1 of an $80 million renovation to the McHale Center, home to their basketball program as well as to their Department of Intercollegiate Athletics. He's not only focused on fundraising, but he's also been involved in many other initiatives, expanded the membership in the Wildcat Club, upgraded their facilities as well as the fan experience there. Prior to Arizona, Greg was Director of Athletics at Mississippi State University, where he was the youngest athletic director in the Southeastern Conference, and he was the youngest to lead an NCAA Division I level program. He's also worked in academic administration roles at Oregon State University, and the University of Kentucky. Greg is the son of Bill Byrne, former athletic director at Texas A&M, who has over 30 years experience as an athletic director, and Greg says that he learned from one of the very best at an early age. Those of you in the media will have time to interview Greg today, and you'll get to know him quite well in the coming weeks and months. I've certainly been able to spend a good bit of time with him, and I can tell you he is very impressive. His wife Regina is here with him also today, along with her two sons, Nick and Davis. Greg also was able to bring his parents, Bill and Marilyn Byrne, who live in College Station. I would ask all of the family to please stand so we can welcome you into Alabama. And Regina, we're so excited you're here. Well, I know that you are all excited to hear from Greg, and so it is now my pleasure to introduce to you the incoming athletic director for the University of Alabama, Greg Byrne. Greg.
Afternoon, everybody. How we doing?
Right.
You cannot blame us for bringing the rain from Arizona, because it's a little dry out there if you didn't know that. We are so fortunate, Regina and I and Nicholas and Davis are going to finish their schooling, it looks like, at the U of A, but we are so excited to be here at the University of Alabama. And before, I'm going to do a number of thank yous and want to recognize a number of folks, but before I get too far, family first. And so, first of all, I want to introduce my mom and dad, which Dr. Bell already did, Bill and Marilyn Byrne. I have a picture in my office of my dad and I in 1976 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There's a high-level fundraising. I was up on his shoulders. He had a large sweatsuit on, and it was a walk-a-thon for the Lobo Club. And luckily, fundraising's evolved a little bit since then. But I remember hearing, boy, a fun drive, what's that? I don't like riding in the car. It's not a lot of fun to drive around, but learned about fundraising early on from my dad and college athletics and what it meant and leadership as well. And my mom, my dad often gets the lion's share of the attention, but my mom's a great leader too in education, both as a principal, the dean of the educational department, and I watched her in leadership too, and I was so fortunate for that. And Mom and Dad, I love you bunches. And our boys, Nicholas and Davis, they're great kids, proud as can be to be their dad. They grew up we didn't hunt and fish a whole lot growing up. We went to ball games, and so a lot of experiences through that. But being around college athletics was a special experience for my family, and they will be true Alabama fans going forward from this day on. And then the love of my wife Regina, who's been on this crazy journey with me, and I used to tell her about how much I would admire, very honestly, the University of Alabama, because we've watched games back as a kid, and I'll get more into that in a minute. But to be here today with our family just means the world to us, and we can't thank you enough to share that with us, and we love you all very much. President Bell, Chancellor Hayes, thank you for this opportunity. We're going to work our tail off, I promise you, and give great energy every day to this university, to the student athletes, the coaches and the staff, and the fans. And we'll work tirelessly to do everything we can to be involved in every aspect of the university and community as well. To the Board of Trustees, thank you very much for your support as well. And President Pro Tem Karen Brooks, thank you for the opportunity as well. I love this woman. She's got great energy, great enthusiasm for the University of Alabama, and very fortunate for your leadership. And just back real quick to President Bell and Chancellor Hayes. You don't have a chance to compete in college athletics without great support from your leadership and the trustees as well. There's never been a better school that has shown more of a commitment and more of a support to intercollegiate athletics than the University of Alabama. And thank you for that leadership, and today, in the past, and in the future as well. We also want to thank the Crimson Tide Foundation and its board chairman, Paul Bryant Jr. Got to talk to him on the phone the other day, had a wonderful conversation with him. And it was really an honor to get a chance to spend some time with him on the phone. And then through this process, I got to meet Fess St. John. And Fess, I hope it's okay for me to call you a friend, but he and his wife Gaynor are wonderful people, and really enjoyed the opportunity to spend time with them throughout as well. They were assisted through the search through Turnkey Sports, and Lynn Pern and Gene DiFilippo did a really nice job through the process. I was very impressed. Coach Battle and Mary, so I got to tell you a quick story. I first learned, I knew who Coach Battle was from the history, but the first time I was connected to the Battle family, I was sitting next to his son Pat on a flight from Dallas, Texas to Phoenix, Arizona. And he was working with his dad with CLC, and I learned all the history in that flight and really came to respect and admire the Battle family. And now to have this opportunity to come and get to work with them, because I've asked them, I said, Coach, I need you to introduce me to everybody. I'm counting on you for that. But not only that, but just to be able to share the ideas and thoughts and understand the history is so important. And I couldn't ask for anybody better than that. And I feel the special connection with Coach Battle already, but it even goes further with Coach Moore. When I was 36 years old and a young AD at Mississippi State, very first SEC AD meeting I ever sat in, I sat next to Coach Moore. And he treated me with such respect and dignity for a young man that probably didn't deserve that. And I was always appreciative of his class, of his dignity, and those two are incredible examples, and Mary as well, for Regina and I to try to emulate, and we admire greatly, and we're honored to be able to be involved with you and develop a friendship, and we sure appreciate your all support. I thought you'd find it interesting too, Coach Moore's book, Crimson Heart, which I read right away when it came out, but Heather, his daughter, actually sent me a copy as well with a very nice note to it as well. And I have that on my credenza in my office and have had that since the day she sent me, just because of how my relationship with Coach Moore and how proud I was to be able to have that and talk to other people about it. Regina and I got to spend time with Coach Saban, Miss Terry. We had a great conversation. And I can't tell you how much I admire the leadership that he's provided for Alabama football, for the Alabama athletics, for the University of Alabama. I know how involved he is from a recruiting standpoint with a lot of our coaches. And I can't tell you how excited we will be to get the chance to work with him. I know he's out recruiting today, so he couldn't be here, which recruiting is pretty important, so I'm glad he's out there doing that. But tell you what, we're honored to have a chance to work with him, not only as one of the greatest football coaches of all time, but one of the greatest coaches of all time. And couldn't be more thrilled with that. A couple more things here, and then we'll get to just a few other comments, and we'll wrap it up here. I'd like to thank some folks back at the University of Arizona. It's a wonderful place, Tucson, Arizona, the community, the state of Arizona. Had great leadership from President Hart as well, who was very supportive of the intercollegiate athletic department. The coaches and staff, they worked their tail off. They're wonderful people, and we really enjoyed them, working with them day in and day out, and saying goodbye to them was very challenging. The student athletes there, my phone hasn't stopped buzzing from all the great messages we've had from them, and as they continue to pursue their education and their athletics. Incredible donors, Jeff and Sharon Stevens, Cole and Jeannie Davis, Dave and Edith Lowell really stepped up in a manner that had never been done before there to offer opportunities to improve the University of Arizona. And Regina and I love and appreciate everybody back there, and we'll miss you and look forward to seeing you in the future. And then finally, before my final comments, I had a few mentors in my life besides my mom and dad. Bill Moose, who's the AD at Washington State, gave me my first full-time job as a fundraiser shortly after my dad had left Oregon back in the early to mid-90s. And he and his wife Kendra are still dear friends today. Mitch and Connie Barnhart. Mitch is the athletics director at Kentucky. Worked for Mitch for 7 years. He's a guy I still call on to this day to ask advice and give counsel and get counsel from him. And Larry Templeton over at Mississippi State. I really appreciated the opportunities that he gave us as well. And it's great to be back in the SEC. It really is. I love this conference. Commissioner Slive is somebody that I very much have looked up to my entire career. Greg Sankey is providing great leadership going forward. I consider him a good friend of mine, and it's great to be back with all of my peers as athletic directors in the league. So I want to tell you about the first time I came to Tuscaloosa. It's about 15 years ago, and it was for a football game when we were at the University of Kentucky. And we stayed up in Birmingham at the Hilton over there, and we had it was an evening game, so I drove down to Tuscaloosa during the day, and I was like, I'm going to run through campus because I want to see it. And we saw the president's house at the center of campus, or I saw the president's house at the center of campus, like, my gosh, how beautiful is that? And we got to have dinner there last night. That was really cool. And then I saw Denny Chimes and Bryant-Denny Stadium and everything else around the campus, and I was in awe. And then later that night, I wanted to be down on the field when the Crimson Tide came running out on the field, so I could see that for the first time in my life. And there was the old grainy video of Coach Bryant talking about going out and winning for Alabama, and the hair on the back of my neck just stood straight up. I admire so much the history of what is here, what makes it so special here at the University of Alabama. And so, as we were growing up too and watching football games, where Keith Jackson would call the games here from the University of Alabama. And I thought, even at a young age, what a special place this is. And after that trip, we go back to Lexington, and they had some nice offices upstairs at Memorial Coliseum, which is the old basketball ring before Rupp. And Mitch Barnhart, with great leadership, he came down and he said, you know, we're going to move to the old offices and move some coaches up for recruiting and everything up to the nice offices. So we were downstairs, and after that trip, Mr. Kitely, who was the legendary equipment guy at Kentucky for Kentucky basketball, he came into my office one day and he said, Greg, and he said, do you remember, he said, how was your trip to Tuscaloosa? I said, Mr. Kitely, it was great, other than the game, because the Crimson Tide, you know, was the Crimson Tide. And he said, well, let me tell you something, Greg. He said, do you know whose office you're sitting in here today? I said, Mr. Kitely, I don't. We just moved in here a little bit ago. He said, this is Coach Bryant's old office. I was like, no kidding. And it was one of the bigger offices, but I can tell you, Coach Bryant didn't have a window or anything like that. It was kind of down there in the bunker. And he had a closet over there, and I was just thinking, how cool is that? I've got Coach Bryant's old office. And already I had studied it and read about him, and then getting a chance to go and say, I'm just a tiny, tiny piece of the history of that. It was so special. And I thank Mr. Kitely for letting me know that. So it's really important to show respect and admire the tradition of what's taken place. And I promise you we will do that in every manner that we possibly can. I know it's done well already. Hopefully we can strengthen that and have the result be even stronger going forward. And at the same time, you want to pay very close attention to where we are today. These are historical times here at the University of Alabama. The leadership, again, like I said, that Coach Saban has brought is absolutely incredible. And we need to enjoy that and appreciate that and do everything we can to support that in today's world. And at the same time, we have to have vision for the future and say, what are the steps that we need to take as a department, as a university, to continue that winning tradition, the expectation level that comes along with that. And that's quite a challenge, and it's very exciting to be a part of that. And I know we've got great coaches and we've got great staff that are going to work their tail off day in and day out, that already have and will in the future, to give us that opportunity for that to continue. And one of the things I just want to say, I know for us, we can never be complacent. We can never say, hey, we've arrived, this is good. The competition isn't resting, and we have to make sure that we're moving forward. I see Coach Johnson over there, the energy that he's already brought to the men's basketball program. Coach Curry as well, the women's basketball program. And we'll tell our coaches, we didn't say it today, but if we're going to keep score, we might as well try to win. And that's what we want to do, and we want to be a part of that. So in closing, I want to say to you, we will do everything we can to compete for championships. We're going to give our student athletes the best experience we possibly can, and we want to do the same thing for our fans. We're going to also balance that with strong academics. Make sure they walk out of here with a good degree that are preparing our student athletes and young people for the future. Regina and I are so very excited to call the University of Alabama home. Roll Tide.
After you say roll tide, all you got to do is say amen and go to the house. Thank you so much for being here today. Again, this will conclude this portion of our media event. Thank you again, and roll tide. Roll tide.